Hello and welcome. The Comprehensive Financial Services team is so glad you could join us today. The following presentation is designed to help answer any questions you might have about GoToWebinar. We want to provide you with everything you need to get the most out of our upcoming webinars. First, we'd like to acquaint you with what you're seeing on your screen. To the left is the GoToWebinar viewer through which you can see the presentation. To the right is the control panel where you can see available handout materials, raise your hand, ask questions, and select the appropriate audio mode that you would like to use. Please take a closer look at the control panel to understand how you can participate. The orange arrow along the top of the control panel, highlighted in red, is used to collapse and expand your control panel. Please note the attendee control panel will automatically collapse when not in use. To keep it open, you can click the View menu along the top of the control panel and uncheck Auto Hide Control Panel. This will allow your panel to stay open during the presentation, which we do recommend. Please note that this control panel on the left side of your screen is not active. If you would like to play with your control panel and make adjustments, you'll need to use the active control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Back to the control panel, this top section that's highlighted in red is used to make an audio connection to the webinar. You can connect through a telephone connection or a mic and speakers connection. You may also switch between the two if you need to, simply by checking the little circle to the left of the option that you would like to choose. If you're using the telephone feature, you'll want to make sure that you've entered your personalized audio PIN. The numbers that you see here on the right-hand side of your screen are just an example for today's webinar. For each webinar you attend, you'll receive a unique dial number, access code, and audio PIN to connect you to that particular webinar. During the presentation, we will mute all participants, and this is so that everyone is able to hear the presentation without background noise. You are not able to unmute yourself, but we will go over the hand-raising feature, which will allow you to indicate to the presenter that you'd like to ask a verbal question or make a statement. Next, this section highlighted in red on your screen is the questions panel. This is where participants are able to ask questions during the presentation. The questions typed in the bottom of the panel here are initially only seen by the organizer and the panelist, who are then able to respond individually or to the group as a whole. Please feel free to submit a question at any point during the presentation, but be aware that most questions will not be addressed until the conclusion of each webinar to avoid disrupting the flow of our presenter. We will do our very best to ensure that all questions are answered by the end of each webinar. Next on the control panel, you'll notice this yellow hand, green arrow circled in our red highlighting tool. This is your hand-raising icon. Please select this button at the end of the presentation if you'd like to ask a verbal question rather than entering it into the questions box. At that time, the organizer will see that you're raising your hand and can unmute your microphone to allow you to ask a verbal question. During our presentations, you might see a poll provided. This will be a question or series of questions that are being asked of the audience. Your response is anonymous. Participation is encouraged to make our webinars more interactive. This is how a poll will show on your screen. After audience members have had an opportunity to select the best answer on their screen, we will show the results of the poll with the audience. At the conclusion of the webinar, you will simply close out of the GoToWebinar program. You can go to the control panel and select the X on the top right-hand side, and that will close you out of the program. Upon completion of the webinar, you'll be sent a very brief survey asking for your feedback. We want to make sure our programs are informative, timely, and beneficial to you. Your feedback at the end of the webinar will greatly help us to serve you best. Lastly, if you're having difficulties, we would encourage you to visit www.gotowebinar.com and click on the 24/7 support option, which can be found in the drop-down menu shown in the top right of this webpage. They provide many different resources for attendee support, including system requirements and other questions you may have. You can also contact GoToWebinar at 855-352-9002. We will also be recording each one of our webinars so that if you have any difficulties or in the event that you aren't able to attend, you will still have access to each one of the presentations and be able to talk to us directly about any questions that you might have from those webinars. We thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at any one of our upcoming webinars.